The infamous assassination occurred at the peak of Christmas jubilation, when folks were grossly excited for the birth of Christ. There was no hint that such macabre could clog the handsome cold harmattan of Christmas, when every falling deciduous tree leaf was a veritable flag of welcome to Christ. Such unholy murder obliterated the joy of Christmas for Justice Azuka, the wife of the brilliant member of the house, who was extinguished. She had prepared her children for the reception of her husband that cold, acrimonious 24th December, bought new clothes for them, and was ready to attend the night vigil mass. There was no sign or reason to believe that her joy would be turned to bitterness and her auspicious, enviable existence covered with blood. So it happened that faithless evening that a progressive, hopeful family head was completely extinguished without purpose. There was no rational purpose, only because he won a serendipitous election. The overwhelming acceptance of his party, the Labour Party, became favorably optimistic in the credibility of his flag bearer. All over Nigeria, a new phenomenon was being erupted, and Anambra, being the epicenter of the intensive purpose, swept the polls with unimaginable success. Though the election was cradled with injustice and violence, the untouched polling units witnessed the rise of a magnificent sagacity in voting, alien to Nigerians. All underdogs who were never counted as political relevant won their tickets, and the old masters were left yawning with astounded defeats. Thus, people like Tony Nwoye, Victor Ume, without the ruling party tickets, succeeded amidst rigging and intensive violence. Where voting was marred by uncalled for injustice and rigging, the court rallied round to bring justice to the victims. In such judicial uprightness, Justice Azuka was sworn in as Anambra State member of the House of Representatives. The previous winner, Barrister Bazu's selection was annulled in favor of Justice Azuka. So it was a serendipity which only fate could account for. Justice was a towering monolith of a man. He was a meticulous man whose every movement was precise and methodical. These zealous attributes he solidly invested in the House, where bills are rarely considered in favor of the citizens. Being an ambitious, brilliant, and malleable character allowed him to vent and considerably peruse every bill prior to approval. Maybe or maybe not, this absolute honest urge to be different in a world polluted by unimaginable compromises brought him to disfavor among his colleagues. An independent mind, character, and brilliance are prerequisites urgently required to move the state forward, and Azuka exhibited that to the climax. He could have been a lone crier in midst of gullibles if his light hadn't been suddenly extinguished by unknown nobodies. The unbiodegradable refuse of corruption, disinformation, and illogical propaganda are the first stratagems of political cover-up in government. These are egregious mountains which honest people in government strenuously endeavor to expunge no ramifications in order to create latent attributes alien to Nigerian political arena. And Justice Azuka set his foot on the wrong direction when he strategically wanted to be a different man among the uproarious crowd that sing the same song. Obsolete songs of dark century civilization and carcasses of decay are obvious in their practice today. In the whole Africa where such malignant songs are sung, insecurity, retrogress in purpose, and underdevelopment surrendered them. On this unfortunate morning of 24 December 2024, when the happy echoes of Christmas hung like nebulous cloud, he drove out to meet his family. All the illicit factor to the equations that made him a political casualty were definitely unknown to him. The house was on Christmas break, and his one thought was to join his wife and children in the celebration. His white official jeep with cover plate numbers a symbol of house membership, was shimmering after attending a car wash gallery. He drove in an easy, uncared-for scale, listening to the traditional music seeping out of the powerful speakers in his car. These disastrous nobodies that kill their betters for money tailed into his streets at Onitsha. The day was already rounding up, and the eastern sky, smudgy with faint hues of the fading sun, moved determinedly as though grazing cattle to usher in the dusk. The nebulous cobwebs of the harmattan covering the abyss with the magnificent aroma of Christmas, fabulous hostel of the season, smeared the streets with colorful Christmas trees, balloons, sweet songs of Bethlehem. Mr. Justice Azuka was completely unaware of the assailants, looking somewhere behind him in 3 motorcycles. Suddenly, they overtook him and forced him on gunpoint into the nearby curb. People were still walking along the street, but the inevitable sound of gunshot drove everybody off the street. The hoodlums rallied round and infiltrated into the white jeep driven by Azuka, and with furious squeal of tires, they disappeared from the street, leaving sordid smudges of dust and cobwebs of harmattan hanging over the stunned atmosphere. There was no chase or public intervention as the jeep melted into thin air. For 2 days, the news took up all the waves. The radio, television, all-powerful internet media went haywire with the macabre news. The streets of Onitsha went beset with the kidnapping news. Every Dick and Harry told different hues of stories that resemble a film spool from Nollywood, all rumors dubiously pointing to one direction. Mr. Azuka's white jeep was a popular phenomenon around the inland town of Onitsha, so it was easy for someone to discover the car stranded on the road on 3rd day of the kidnapping. Circumstances surrounding the interior of the car proved beyond measure that there was a frenetic struggle that resulted in dire consequence. There were pools of blood found in the interior, which empirically pointed to brutal pummeling and torture. The discovery of the white jeep kept hope alive that justice may still be kicking, though wounded. So when a call for ransom was made, Mrs. Justine Azuka sent a whopping 5 million naira to the underground leeches. Similar vicious, illogical assassination arrived in Anambra State. About a few months back, a progressive beacon of success was also eliminated irrationally without purpose. She was a high flyer in the financial institution, a regional bank manager, and the only substantial breadwinner in her family. Every other person within her family looked up to her for sustenance. She was traveling with her driver on that faithless day, where she was waylaid by the non-entities called unknown gunmen, and unfortunately wasted for nothing. They shot her in several parts of her body and abandoned the bloody carcass in the middle of the road. The Senumpo Onobi Road witnessed the egregious obliteration of a gentleman who had attended a night vigil at Adoration Ministry Uke with his young wife and her maid. The woman was nurturing a 4-month baby. While traveling on the same infamous route, they were rounded up and stopped by a group of nobodies armed to the tooth. They adopted the man and sent the wife home to go and sought for ransom to liberate her husband. The woman ran frantically home to raise 5 million naira, which she gave to the hoodlums. On coming back the following morning to claim her husband, she met his corpse on the junction of Vidani Girls Secondary School. It also occurred in Justice Azuka's ordeal, where the wife, Amaka Azuka, paid 5 million ransom to the vampires. She was expecting her husband to return after payment of ransom, but nothing happened. As the waiting exacerbated into rumors of assassination, palpable tension hung all over the streets of Onitsha. The obnoxious pessimism of cold blood murder incredibly spread like wild harmattan fire. All the sermons of previous people who had paid ransom only to receive the corpses of their loved ones became the latest song in town. For a whole 3 good anxiety-filled days, people still held hope that he will return. Then on the 4th day, a group of vigilantes discovered his blotting corpse at the new Second Niger Bridge. It was the clothing he was wearing that gave the already decaying corpse away. Thus ended the ambition, success, and progressive, auspicious expectations of a young man. His death brought the lackadaisical search to an abrupt end. The security agents immediately switched on to look for the assailants. According to Darwin's theory, Nigeria is a country of the survival of the fittest. There were 2 exceptional stories that infiltrated into the astounded society. One, that Justice was an assiduous man who always deliberated immensely in any bill before signing. Another lacks circumstantial evidence because it dealt with election and political victory in the court. Every assassination in Nigeria tends to be covered with dark cloak of secrecy. The brutal murder of Justice Azuka suffered similar profound retrogress. The state boosts like beehives, and the pressure mounted on police and other agents climaxed to several arrests. These youths, who spuriously claimed to have kidnapped and murdered Justice, had conspicuously no tenacious motive for such an evil act. Besides, their infected stories were unsynchronized, illogical, and irrationally rendered. However, the citizens, bereaved with the purposeless assassination, found where to patch their anger and quickly praised the police for a job well done. And suddenly, there was a news that these hoodlums had broken the prison and made their escape. Such obnoxious dramas are the fate of Nigeria. The truth of that murder still hung in the hopeless atmosphere, and nobody could say what had happened.